Hello everyone, as promised I have here all of the LEGO Ninjago sets for early 2019 that I have reviewed. So this is all of the box sets from Legacy, plus I've included here the Masters of Spinjitzu spinner sets because they use the exact same figures and they kind of go with any line, but I think they fit here for the most part. And I did not include the poly bags. I have not tracked those down. Those are a pain to get depending upon where you are. And of course I've not included the Oni Battle Pack because that is strictly a Season 10 set. And this stuff is mostly fitting into the gap between Season 9 and Season 10. This is a lot of stuff. There's a lot more here than I expected. This is actually rather surprising to me. I did not realize there was such a volume of work, such a body of work here, until I actually put all this stuff here in the studio for you guys to look at. It's 8 main boxed sets plus 5 Spinjitzu Master sets. All told, almost 5,000 pieces and over 40 minifigures are included here. So though it is just kind of a gap filler between a couple of seasons, they really put a lot of effort into this, a lot more than I realized as I was going through reviewing the sets one at a time. So I'm going to go through and try to answer some of the questions that you asked me on my setup video for this one, where I just showed you the boxes and said I was going to do the summary, and I was going to try to answer your questions. So that's what I'm going to do here, starting with the major questions that were asked by the largest number of people that I can just kind of group together. A lot of you have asked me what I think about these relative to their original versions, because each of these major builds, except for the Giant Stone Warrior, is basically a reboot or redesign that's inspired by a specific thing that was released previously, much earlier in Ninjago's history. So let's do that. Let's go through these one by one. Monastery of Spinjitzu here is based on Spinjitzu Dojo, and the old one was a much smaller set. This is a much larger set, and for the stuff that is here, it is built much more interestingly, with more detail, and I think better usefulness as well for play and for display. It's easier to expand as well. I think personally that everything about this one is better than the old one, but you do have to pay for that. They do make you pay an increased price for a significantly larger set. In this case, I think that makes sense. This still feels like, to me, a budget version of something like a Temple of Air Jitsu. It just has that nice style to it and gives you some nice structure. It displays well, and yet it doesn't cost as much as something like that. The Ultra Dragon was originally covered in the Epic Dragon Battle set, and honestly I could go either way with this one. The original was closer in the design of the heads to the original source material, and there's just no substitute for accuracy. If you're going to look back at something in history and look at the legacy of a franchise, to some degree you have to just follow the original, and this really does not. This tries to improve upon it significantly. I think that this is a much better build. I think as an outsider, if I was not looking at this from the perspective of an original Ninjago fan, I would recommend this one, or I would prefer this one. I really like those brick-built heads myself, but that's purely subjective, but I'm just giving you my subjective thoughts anyway. So for me, it's this one that wins slightly. The Samurai X mech here, the new one, is a good value. It's a really good value. It's a very proper mech. It's very posable, and it plays well, and I think it looks nice for its price. But it's so much smaller than the original, and this is another case where the original is so much closer to what was actually in the show. This is so much farther away that between the two, definitely the original is way, way better. But for the price, this is still a good mech set. Just don't look at it as a direct substitute for the original, because there's little comparison there. The Golden Dragon is another tough one, because I feel like this is a better build, and I like the head design better, and I think it's a better value than the original was. This is more posable. Objectively, so many things about this are better, but it does have even skinnier and skimpier wings than the original did. And the original was already pretty bad in that regard. I don't know. I feel like if I was a kid and I was given a choice between this or the older one, I would have to go with the older one. Even though even with what I know now and even having built both, I still have to give the nod to the older one for reasons that really don't make sense. To be honest with you, it's just that feeling kind of thing. Me today, as an adult, I prefer the build here. I prefer the posability, but the wings are just weak. They really are. But again, value is really good here. The new version of Cole's Earth Driller is, to me, better in every way. It is a little bit larger, but it's just built so nicely. It uses pieces that weren't available before. It uses techniques that weren't available before. The Technic mechanisms are great in this. The ability to operate the drill independent of the wheels, or just to seamlessly go back and forth between the two. Just how well this is covered all around. It's just really, really good. I am 100% a fan of this one over the original. Kai's Blade Cycle, I think, has way more visual contrast and interest this time around, and I think this is a better build than the original version, and I like its transformative feature. It feels like a very complete set that works very well, or a complete build that works very well. But, the original was somewhat iconic. The original had way more red, which can be seen as more plain and boring, but I don't know, I kind of appreciated that simplicity between these two, this new version and the old. I would rank that as a tie. It's really going to come down to how you feel at a given moment. I don't feel like either one is objectively better. Comparing that to this one, which is also included in the same set this time around, Zane's snowmobile thing, between the two, I don't know. I personally really don't like either the new or the old on this one. Which one is better? I don't know. I really don't know. I can't say. I'm going to have to give this one a tie again. Neither of them is my favorite. Jay's Stormfighter is another close one, but I'm confident giving the nod to the new one. Its build is really good. Its transformative feature is kind of brilliant, actually. How they designed that, how it actually works, is something like I've never seen before. It's just so solid. It's interesting. It's innovative. The look of this thing is good in both of its forms. Yeah, I give a definite clear nod to this one. This is the better set. I think it's better looking, but you can disagree with that easily. But I think this is just a better build and a better toy. Monastery Training is just a little thing on its side, and I think that any set like this is good as long as the price to part ratio and price to volume of stuff ratio is good. So nobody wins. Well, everybody wins here. There's no loser. Regarding spinners, a lot of people have asked me to give my thoughts about all of the spinners relative to each other. All the different types of designs that they've come up with for spinners and flyers and such for Ninjago. I personally give a very slight nod to the newest ones. These right here as the best that they've done to date. They're very customizable. They work really well. I think they look good. I think they allow you to experiment well and see results. I just think it's a very, very good system, and with the accuracy, with the cyclones, little energy tornadoes, that's just something that they haven't gotten to before to this degree. So I think these are just barely better than the originals. The originals I place in a close second place. All of the flying things that they've done between those two, the flying or spinning things that they've done, have they've been things. They've had their value. They've been able to provide some good playtime, I'm sure, for a lot of kids. But I feel like none of them really hit the marks. None of them really did what is called for, what is asked for spinners and for basically energy vehicles for the Ninjago heroes and villains. I just don't think any of them have have gotten it right. The first Air Jitsu ones had a thing going at least of being able to fly, but they were so limited. They could fly and that's just it. You couldn't really use the weapons with them or anything. They were just so limiting to keep them together. So I feel like nothing really worked. They did the dragon ones that had wings that could go farther, but for me, it's all about these and the originals. And I have much respect for the originals as well. I just feel like these are slightly better as toys and as representatives of the Ninjago world. Of course, I've been asked to rank all of these, to say what are my favorites and what are my least favorites. I'm going to have to go with the monastery, even though it's the biggest one, and I hate to just default to the biggest as being the best. That's just so cliche, but I have to do it this time. Even if they had only included half of this, just the back half or even just the front half, I think if they had done just the back half, then it would still be in first place for me. If they had done just the first half, the front half, then that would have been a little bit more difficult to call. I'm going to put in second place the Samurai Mech, even though I don't like it as much as the original. I think it doesn't represent the Samurai Mech, the in-universe thing, as well as the original. It's still just a great set with great value, so much posability, and it looks really cool just on its own. So that one definitely gets very high marks from me. I want to put the little training set up very high as well, but this has to knock it out of the way. I'm going to put this next on my list, the Stormfighter. It's just so cool, and that transformative feature is just so cool. I love it. God, it's smooth, it's slick, it's sleek. Of course, right there in real time I didn't quite do it right, but it's just so cool, so cool. And even if it didn't do that, still, it's a nice looking thing, and it's built well. One thing that would have made it better would have been the ability to have a passenger in there. I mean, I know it's from a Golden Weapon. It's supposed to be just 4J, but I mean, the Earth Driller has space for a passenger, and that works out. Now, Earth Driller, I'm going to put next, even before the Ultra Dragon, mostly because, well, for two reasons. One, I very much appreciate and respect its design, think the design is good, but also that giant Stone Warrior is awesome, and I just have to give props to LEGO for coming up with that design, that general design in the first place for the giant figures, and I want them to do more and more and more, so I have to encourage that, and I have to give major points for that. Now, I have to decide between the little Golden Dragon and the big Ultra Dragon. Ooh, I did not come up with these answers in advance, so I'm deciding right now, looking at the two. Oh, this is rough. But, if you ask me the same question in, I don't know, a month from now, 2 months from now, which is better between these two? Not which is bigger, which is better for what it is. I'll probably give you a different answer, but right now, I'm going to go with the Golden Dragon over the Ultra Dragon. For what it is, ultimately a dragon, a Ninjago dragon that holds one person, I think this is better. Because I am considering value, I am considering price in that equation there. Ultra Dragon is really cool this time around, but this time around, I'm going to give the nod to that little Golden Dragon for just being a nice, inexpensive thing. And, of course, the Overlord figure. That totally puts it over the top. I think anything that comes with the new Overlord figure would get extra credit. And definitely in last place here, I have to put the bike set. It's just relative to everything else. It's just relatively uninteresting. All the Spinjitzu stuff rates fairly highly for me as well, but I didn't want to mess up the rating too much. So that takes care of that. Now let me just go through some individual questions from specific commenters. Lego Show TV asks a bunch of questions, but I'm going to take the first one. Do you want a second Lego Ninjago movie? I do not want a second Lego Ninjago movie in the same universe. I want a second Lego Ninjago movie in the TV show universe. I think if they could bring that high level of animation with the computer generated stop motion style to the canonical Ninjago universe, that would be fantastic. But then again, they could just bring it over to the TV show world and do it as a series. So no to the Jackie Chan universe. Sorry, much respect to Jackie Chan, but yes to the canonical TV universe. Bale Bricks asks, how huge of an actual legacy do you think the series will leave, talking about all of Ninjago, once it's eventually discontinued? Will Ninjago be looked back on as fondly as something like Bionicle? Well, certainly for some fans, it will definitely be looked back upon very fondly. One of the major reasons that Bionicle has such a legacy is that it came around during a time when there were a lot of kids who were open to it, who were at the right age to be drawn in and to follow along. It was just one of those things that just worked at the time. Ninjago has been a very good thing, a very positive thing that a lot of kids have enjoyed. So for some people, yeah, it will have a legacy. Long term, will it have a legacy like Classic Space or something like that? Probably not, but it will be remembered fondly. I think more fondly than many of the original themes. Aaron the Savior asks, do you think Lego should do the first Spinjitzu master and his wife? Absolutely. Yes, I think that anything that goes back into important core history of any theme should be explored in merchandise form eventually. I think it's fine that they haven't gone back and done anything like that up to this point. They haven't gone back that far. They've gone a little bit in that direction with the statues and some of the locations, but I think it is time by now to do a special edition figure pack. And if they want, they could even take Ninjago, in the direction of prequels. They could take us back to those early days at some point. Iconic Fang Lida asks, which set for you brought the most nostalgia? There's an easy answer to that one. None of the above, because I wasn't into Ninjago in the early days. Simple as that. Thor Magnus asks, how do you feel about Lego redoing old sets as anniversary sets or as legacy sets? I think it's cool as long as they do it in moderation. I think that any sets that a lot of people still like to this day that are now old and discontinued and difficult to get are ready, to be redone. I think that a lot of that would help to keep in check the aftermarket, for folks who just have a lot of nostalgia and want to go back and get something from their childhood or something that was old that was really cool. If they either bring back the exact original designs or if they redo them and make them better with modern parts, I think either is good. I do hope that they will continue to do that, as long as they don't go too far with it or lean too heavily on it over innovation and creating new content. Nina asks, are there any good sets in the frame right now for non-Ninjago fans in terms of maybe good price to part ratio, good value of stuff, rare pieces that are not super specific in use, looking at the spinners, or other stuff to look out for as mostly a city fan? I'm looking. No. If you're mostly into city, no. None of this stuff is that useful, to be honest. Nah, not really. I think if you like the monastery, if you want to have, something that is Asian inspired as a destination in your city, this is absolutely a good starting point, and at a reasonable price. Something that's cheaper than like a Temple of Airjitsu. But beyond that, the rest of this you can just skip over. If you're not personally drawn to anything that you see here, There's nothing hidden. There's nothing that you're missing out, in my opinion, missing out on. BioDude15 asks, how do you feel about the fact that we got so many sets, indeed, for Legacy? Yet for the entirety of Season 10, we haven't had a box set. We've only had just the... I'm adding this part in. We've only had just the Oni Battle Pack. I'm fine with it, because it's giving them more time. This was a useful filler, I think, that... this was good stuff to put out on the market, and they will cover Season 10. Don't worry, they will cover it for sure with the merchandise. We just have to be patient. Here's one from Seth Becken. My question is, will you reply to this question? Firearm Studios asks, will you ever do a review on the first sets of Ninjago from 2011? Thumbs up emoji. Probably not. Maybe at some point. I mean, if nostalgia grows to the point where a lot of viewers are asking for that, and I mean a lot, not just a handful with some thumbs up on one video. If there becomes a great desire for that, I will do it for you guys. But personally, I'm not that interested at this time. I don't see any interest in that growing for me in the near future. Angel Gonzalez says, can you make the Stone Warrior a statue or monument in your Lego city? I'm not going to do that, but that does bring up an interesting question, an interesting possibility, kind of a side suggestion of having something in my city, something in New Jang City that is a Ninjago reference. Down in the Melonby district, sure, it's fair game, but up above, even not necessarily Ninjago specific, but kind of a nod to Ninjago with something ninja related. That's a good question, a good suggestion. Taking it off in that direction. I will consider that. I will definitely consider that. I think that's a good idea. I'm not certain just yet whether I will or how I would do it. I'm gonna skip this one because the username is not family friendly, so forget that. Jonathan Geese, forgive me, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Jonathan asks, with Ninjago now in its 9th year, are you happy to see the theme continue, or are you ready for something new? The answer is yes. I'm happy to see it continue as long as it continues to be good and continues to put out good sets for it. Am I ready for something new? Yes. I would like to see something new with the staying power of Ninjago. It's not easy to do. They definitely try. Ninjago wasn't intended to even last this long, but it just had such a positive impact on fans, and fans supported it so much and bought so much of the stuff on an ongoing basis that it was able to grow on beyond its intended lifespan. Dr. Pig Pork says, do you like spaghetti? If not, what is your favorite food? Of course I like spaghetti. I'm a warm-blooded human being. Who doesn't like spaghetti? But what is my favorite food? I don't know. No one particular thing comes to mind. I mean, I like burgers and sandwiches and fries and stuff like that. Typical American stuff. As long as it doesn't have too much cream sauce or mayonnaise, keep it lean. I mean, at least to a reasonable degree. Snow B asks, do you think? Oh yeah, I also like cereal a lot. Any kind of cereal. Again, as long as it's not too crazy with the bad stuff. Not too much frosting and sugar and stuff. Snowbee asks, do you think we are going to get a new big modular Ninjago set like City on the Docks? I don't think we're going to get one for the Ninjago movie world. I think that ship has sailed, but there is still some potential in the future for the TV universe to spawn something like a Temple of Airjitsu. If they can come up with something big in universe, in the show, that really resonates well and that would translate well to a set, there is still some possibility, but I kind of doubt it would be done in the modular city block sort of form. It would be more like Airjitsu Temple or like the monastery here, where it would have an irregular shaped base. Zimbabwe asks, which set's scale surprised you the most compared to the box? I think the Ultra Dragon is a little bit bigger than I expected it to be. Cole's Earth Driller is definitely bigger than I expected it to be. The Monastery is probably a little bit bigger than I expected, and the Golden Dragon, in some ways it's thinner than I expected, but a little bit longer. I think the one thing out of all of them that surprised me the most is the size of Cole's Earth Driller. Lego Lover 2019. Oh, you're going to regret that. You're going to have to change that name pretty soon. It's going to happen. Are you tired of all of the Spinjitzu sets? I was definitely tired of all of the action-oriented Spinjitzu sets that didn't tie into the show, really. You know, the ones I've talked about between the originals and these. But if they can get back, if they can stay back with good stuff, you know, the original intent of customizable play with brick built stuff, if they can stick to that, then they can continue. But if they go back to those zip cord ones, then nah, forget it. I'm done, totally done. Okay, I'm just gonna do a couple more here. Max the Man. Do you watch the Ninjago TV show? Yes, I absolutely do. I try to watch most of the Lego TV shows, with the one exception, or the zone of exception being the superheroes related stuff, with, you know, the digital movies that they've done for that. I've not followed those very much, but the original themes I do follow, and the Star Wars stuff, including the non-canonical spin-off comedy stuff, I do watch, but not religiously. You know, I don't rewatch. I don't have time to rewatch stuff in general. And most movies that I've ever seen, not just Lego related, I've only ever seen once. Most TV shows that I've seen, even ones that I really, 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 really liked, I've only seen once. I just don't have a lot of time to go back through it. But yes, I have watched all of the Ninjago stuff. And I'm going to take one more. BM5 Bricks says, does the monastery look good when placed on a high shelf? That's a great question. That's a great question. The answer is no to that. Mostly because you're mostly going to be seeing just the front gate, you know, which I think is not that interesting looking. The gate itself is pretty cool, but the walls out here are not that great looking. Uh-oh, I'm accidentally disconnecting the parts, but that's okay. You're mostly going to see these, and you're going to see the top of the back section. So no, I don't think it really displays that well for a high up top shelf kind of position, unfortunately. I'm just going to leave these little things off to the side. So that does it for my summary and my look back at the entirety of what they've done for Ninjago so far. Season 10 stuff will happen when it happens, but hope that you've enjoyed my reviews on these and also my builds that I've done over on my build channel. And I'm going to start packing this stuff back up, and I will talk to you again soon because I've got a lot more videos to bring you on other themes. Bye for now.